Now, negative feedback is very important for this examination. Negative feedback is really important, and I can give you, or I can guarantee you that they're going to ask this. And we are going to look at questions, we are going to explain it to you, and you must learn it. So, endocrine system, they can give you a sketch, and they can ask you the gland, and they can ask you what hormone does it secreted, and what is the function of the hormone. But negative feedback, I want to emphasize, maybe there's a good chance that they can ask the question 4, section C, the long question. The essay question can be on negative feedback. And it's not difficult. It's really, really not difficult. It's actually, if they can ask you that, it's a bonus, because I'm going to show you the 3 negative feedback problems that they can ask you and how to answer that. So I think you must pay attention on negative feedback. And negative feedback, they can ask short questions also about it, and we will do those questions. I will show you, but I know this is the second session that you have, but please, let's concentrate on negative feedback, because I think it is very, very important. Negative feedback, very, very important. What is negative feedback? It's activities of all the glands are interrelated with one another. If one gland secreted stimulates another gland to produce a hormone. So one gland stimulates a hormone, and this hormone goes to another gland and it stimulates that gland. The increased level of that hormone in the blood will cause a drop in the production of the first gland's secretion. But as we're going to do negative feedback mechanisms, you will see what we meant by this definition of negative feedback. Alright, the secretion stimulates another gland to produce a hormone, and this hormone causes the production of the first gland secretion to drop or to inhibit it. So negative feedback. So let's look at negative feedback. So if we look at this diagram shows negative feedback. So maybe they can give you a diagram like this, and they can ask, what are they illustrated in this diagram? Negative feedback. Alright, so in this case, we have the thyroid gland and we have the pituitary gland, the one in the brain and the one just besides the trachea, in the trachea. Alright, so the thyroid gland, we know the thyroid gland secretes thyroxine. So decreases levels of thyroxine will stimulate the pituitary gland to produce more TSH. Now if there is more TSH in the blood, it will stimulate the thyroid gland to increase levels of thyroxine. This increased levels of thyroxine will go to the pituitary gland, and then it will produce less TSH. And less TSH will stimulate the thyroid gland to secrete more thyroxine. So we have 2 glands. This one influences this one, and therefore it's negative feedback. So increased levels will decrease the levels, and decreased levels will increase more TSH. So the first negative feedback that I can ask you is between the pituitary gland and the thyroid gland. So the pituitary gland, the more TSH they produce, the less the thyroid gland increase levels of thyroid stimulates. They will increase the levels of thyroxine. But I think maybe I'm talking you now, and you think, all right, Cecilia, you are talking in circles, but if we look at the question, you will see that. What you must remember is that the pituitary gland secreted TSH, thyroid stimulated hormones, and it stimulates the thyroid gland to secrete thyroxine. So if there's more TSH, the more the thyroid gland will be stimulated to secrete thyroxine. The more thyroxine there is, the pituitary gland will then produce less TSH. So that is the negative feedback between the pituitary gland and the thyroid gland. Right. If we look at negative feedback between the pancreas beta cells and the pancreas alpha cells, we see this. When the blood glucose levels rise after a meal, after an ice cream, maybe you can eat pancakes this afternoon or whatever with much sugar, then the blood sugar levels will rise. The beta cells is stimulated to produce insulin. Now remember, insulin, they are responsible for glucose levels to be decreased. So blood cells take up more glucose go to the liver and it's stored as glycogen. Remember, in the liver, we store glucose as glycogen. So the liver is now having this glucose. So the blood glucose levels declines, it decreases. High blood levels, insulin, decrease my blood levels. So when the blood glucose levels, that is a normal, 90 millimeter, 100 milliliter, when this blood glucose levels falls below 100 milliliter, below, so the glucose in the blood is low, you need glucose. So after this session, your blood glucose levels will be low because you will thinking and you use energy and you will drain, so you will be hungry when you get home. And then these glucose levels fall, the alpha cells produce glucagon, and the glucagon goes to the liver and they say, all right, now we need those glucoses. Those glucoses that we store, we need this. And glycogen is then released to glucoses, and then my blood glucose levels rise. So if blood glucose levels is high again, then it stimulates the insulin. Insulin will reduce the blood sugar levels. If it's too low, the blood sugar levels will be rise again with glucagon that is secreted, and then it rise. So this is very important. After a meal, there is a high glucose level. Insulin will take that meal and it will take it to the body cells, or it will store it in the liver as glycogen, and the blood glucose levels is decreasing. The normal blood glucose levels, the homeostasis of blood must be about 90 milligrams per 100 milliliter. So that is what your blood glucose levels must be in your blood. If it's too high, you will go in a coma. If it's too low, you will be dizzy and you want to sleep, etc. So then insulin and glucagon regulates this blood level. If it's too high, insulin. If it's too low, glucagon will be stimulated, and that is negative feedback. So on a long question, if they ask it on a long question, it's actually very easy. If they say describe the endocrine system and negative feedback between beta cells and alpha cells, you start and you say if blood glucose level rise, the beta cells releases insulin, and insulin decreases the glucose levels. And when the glucose levels are too low, then it stimulates the pancreas alpha cells to produce glucagon, and glucagon will produce glycogen to glucose, so that the blood glucose levels rise again. So that is the other negative feedback. So the first one is on the pituitary gland and thyroid, and this one is in the pancreas between the beta cells and the alpha cells. Now the last one is on FSH and progesterone and FSH. But I'm going to show you a quick video on this. If it's play, I hope it plays. Yes.
Small amounts of estrogen are secreted from the ovary. Estrogen stimulates the release of gonadotropin-releasing hormone from the hypothalamus and luteinizing hormone from the anterior pituitary. Gonadotropin-releasing hormone also stimulates release of luteinizing hormone from the anterior pituitary. Luteinizing hormone, in turn, causes release of additional estrogen from the ovary. The levels of gonadotropin-releasing hormone and luteinizing hormone increase in the blood due to this positive feedback effect. After ovulation, the corpus luteum is formed in the ovary and begins to secrete progesterone in response to luteinizing hormone. Progesterone inhibits the release of gonadotropin-releasing hormone from the hypothalamus and luteinizing hormone from the anterior pituitary. Blood levels of gonadotropin-releasing hormone and luteinizing hormone decrease because of this negative feedback effect.
So just to summarize then, we have the endocrine glands, that is Douglas glands, that secreted hormones, and these hormones are chemical messengers that is transported in the blood, and it's organic, and they stimulate a target organ. Now the hypophyse or the pituitary gland secreted TSH that stimulates the thyroid. It secreted growth hormones for the skeleton. The thyroid gland produces thyroxine. The adrenaline gland produces aldosterone and adrenaline. Please learn the functions of adrenaline and learn the functions of thyroxine. And then we have the pancreas with the insulin and the glucagon, and the ovaries with the FSH and the lutein hormone. And then the testes is also an endocrine gland that releases testosterone. So that is a summary of the endocrine system. So the basics is very important. Go and learn the differences between endocrine and exocrine. Learn what is a hormone, that you know that, and the difference between exocrine and endocrines. Remember, I give it you right at the beginning. I will leave this on, so maybe in break time, if some of you didn't write it down, you can write it down. Endocrine system and the nerve system, the differences. I think this is very important, and what is a hormone is also important. So we can take a break now, and those of you that wants to write this down are more than welcome.